They've already torn out the embankment on this north end of the Route 5 embankment, and they're starting to put it back, but for most of it, it's been torn out, and you don't have to put it back, and you could tear this back out again. And then bring it down to grade, and then eventually take the skyway out. Take the skyway out and replace it with a surface bridge. Like, you know, if you want examples, just look around the country. All the bridges, the lift bridges in Chicago, there's dozens and dozens of them, or Milwaukee, or around the Great Lakes. There's all kinds of examples of how to build a bridge in a city. You don't have to have a freeway. You can just have an ordinary bridge with sidewalks on each side so the pedestrians can walk over here along the South Shore. But they could just, if they stopped, right now they're wasting money by putting this pile of dirt back in place, but most of it they haven't done it to yet. So they could stop. Hopefully that court injunction will succeed and they'll block it and force DOT to actually listen to the Buffalo City Council. I can't believe it that the head of DOT, Astrid Glenn, is so arrogant that she won't even talk to the president of the city council. She won't even talk to the members of the council. She'll have nothing to do with them because she thinks Buffalo is just a great place to run trucks through. That it's a great place to just be for highway traffic to go, and she doesn't see the value of it. Maybe that's because she's from Boston and she worked for Mitt Romney before, and so she doesn't see the value of cities. I don't know. Well, the rebuild of Route 5 will, as if it's done the way the DOT is planning on doing, it's going to basically make the Skyway permanent probably for another 50 to 100 years because they're actually making the embankment big enough so that it fits right into the Skyway. If they took the embankment out and just had a grade, at-grade street, boulevard, then that would set up the situation where the Skyway that could then come out. And it wouldn't hurt people, like if you lived in Hamburg, being able to get downtown. You just build a bridge across the river. They're all over the Great Lakes. You can go to Toledo or Milwaukee or Chicago. They have dozens of lift bridges. You just lift them up, and when the big boat needs to go through, which doesn't happen very often anymore, and then close it up, and people can walk on the sidewalk on it. It's just a bridge. And there's no reason that they can't just put an ordinary bridge back in here. It'll save a lot of money, not rebuilding the Skyway, which is near the end of its design life. They already spent $15 million a year trying to keep it operating. So if they replace the Skyway, it would save the taxpayers a lot of money. And they could use that money for other things. No, I think environmentalists increasingly understand that commerce is important, that it's an important part of society. I think it's more the DOT that doesn't understand the importance of commerce. They think of just their facility that they want to build as what matters, and traffic counts are the only thing that matters, and accommodating traffic. In this case, the traffic counts don't even justify the road. And yet they push for this big road which will kill commerce. I mean, if you want to have a really strong, vibrant city, you don't build a lot of freeways around it. Like Detroit has lots of freeways and very little commerce. Toronto stopped building new freeways in 1967 when Jane Jacobs and others stopped the Spadina Expressway. They're tearing expressways down. The Gardner Expressway, which goes along the waterfront in Detroit, they just decided to tear another section of it down and replace it with a surface street. That's what a city that's focused on commerce does. A city that's not focused on commerce, a city that's focused on building stuff that really doesn't add value, does what Buffalo's doing here, what the DOT is doing here with this ridiculous Route 5 embanked, grade-separated road blocking Buffalo from connecting with its waterfront. Well, people ought to care because what is built adds value or detracts from the value of the community. And even if you're in one of the areas that's not in Buffalo, like the Village Board in Hamburg, they understood that a boulevard, a surface street would be fine for Route 5, even though some people would perceive there's some benefit to them in having the grade separated route. They understood that having a vibrant Buffalo connected to Lake Erie, a place where people want to be, that's important to them and their kids. Their kids go to school, and will they come back to the Buffalo area if Buffalo's not a vibrant, successful city? Probably not. And that's hurt Buffalo. The fact that before World War II, Buffalo was considered the livelier city between Toronto and Buffalo. Now it's no contest. And Buffalo spent a lot of money getting the way it is, building unnecessary roads, ripping out a lot of neighborhoods with urban renewal. Those things cost money. And it's time to change that. It's time to invest in things that actually add value. Well, construction's important, especially the construction industry, but if you look at the street network in a valuable neighborhood like the Delaware District with its blocks and streets, road builders, contractors built those streets, and those add a lot of value. They make a neighborhood that everybody wants to be in and hang out. The real estate prices there are strong. You look at building a freeway which concentrates all the traffic in a big ugly structure that blocks the view of Lake Erie, that detracts from the value of Buffalo. So when you come down to construction jobs and the construction unions, they should realize that you can build streets and boulevards and avenues that are beautiful, that add value to the community, and still have good union jobs and still make a lot of money, instead of spending all the money on a few roads that are giant and blight the city and create sprawl and create a place where young people don't want to come back to after they finish college. Why do that? So there does need to be money spent on road building, but spend it on building streets and boulevards that add value, that create a place where people want to be, not just some place that turns into a truck stop. Well, I think the city council in Buffalo has been courageous and has shown leadership. They've confronted the DOT. They've tried to convince them to come with a surface option on the South Shore route, and they haven't been listened to. So it's absolutely alarming that the DOT secretary, Astrid Glynn, won't even meet with the city council of the great city of Buffalo, the second largest city in the state of New York. It's absolutely appalling. And I compliment them. I think the city council in Buffalo has shown great courage. I think that other people are afraid to try change. I mean, the mayor and the congressman and others that are going along with building this road and probably going along with having the Skyway for another 50 or 100 years, I think they're afraid of change. They're afraid to try something else. And the interest groups that are built up around things like road projects are hard to stand up to. And so that's unfortunate. But for Buffalo, Buffalo could be a beautiful, great city on the Great Lakes. It could be more beautiful than Cleveland, more beautiful than Chicago, and even more beautiful than my former city, Milwaukee, which is really a beautiful city. And one of the reasons is the waterfront wasn't covered with these grade separated highways. It's really, it's a tough thing for people to think out of the box and to think a little counterintuitively, but there's no reason why Buffalo can't make a big comeback. Just have to stop spending taxpayer dollars on stupid things. The action for citizens is to talk to the mayor, talk to the congressman, talk to the new governor. He didn't hire Astrid Glynn. If the next time Governor Patterson comes to Buffalo, people ought to try to talk to him, confront him with this, tell him about it. He knows about it. He was very familiar with the effort to tear down the Sheridan Expressway in the Bronx, which is likely to come down. The city of New York supports doing that. A lot of the delegation from New York City supports doing that. He understands these issues. And David Patterson could provide the leadership that Eliot Spitzer didn't have the will to do.